In the previous couple lessons, we talked about the widget tree and stateless and stateful widgets. Now in this lesson, I want to go through a bunch of the widgets and give you a little feel of how it is to work with the widgets in Flutter. Now if you remember, everything in Flutter is a widget, and all the widgets in Flutter are derived from two widgets, stateless and stateful widgets. Now in total, there are hundreds of these widgets. And we're going to show you a couple, but please don't get overwhelmed. You don't have to memorize these. So to get a full list of the widgets, if you go to flutter.dev website, click on Docs, and bottom left here, you click the widgets index. You'll get a huge list of all the widgets within Flutter. Now this might look a little bit overwhelming, but don't worry, you do not have to memorize all these. I know that I definitely haven't. There are widgets in here that you'll use a lot more than other widgets per se, and those you'll probably start memorizing, and the more you use the widgets, the more easier they'll be to work with. So Flutter is pretty good at naming widgets, and I recommend you search for the type of thing you're trying to do. So let's say we want a button. We can search for it, and we see there's Cupertino buttons, elevated button, drop-down button, all these different types of buttons. Let's say you want one of those switch icons where you could turn on settings. Type in switch, you'll see Cupertino switch, and you'll see the regular switch. And a nice thing about this widget index is they have pretty cool little images here that give you a feel for what this widget does. Now you can search for widgets, or if you don't know what to search for, you could even just look through all these widgets. And again, you do not have to remember a lot of these. The more you work with them, the more you'll be able to pick them up. Now for the rest of this lesson, I want to go through the default application that you get with your Flutter app and explain every widget that is within there and how I go through understanding code and how I work with it. And in the next lesson, we're going to take 5 to 10 widgets and just work with them, get a feel for how widgets work, and build some goofy looking page. So this is the default application you get when you do a Flutter create. Now the first widget is a widget that we have to define ourselves. This isn't a Flutter defined widget. You'll see we could change the name to Tatus app, and everything works perfectly fine. This is just an entry point for our complete Flutter application. And the first Flutter defined widget is called Material App. Now, if there's a widget that I don't understand within Flutter, I like to hover over it because there's always a good description here. So you can read this description, but I'm just going to explain to you Material App real quick. So Material is a design language that Android uses for its Android applications. You can actually go to the Material Design website, and you can click on styles, and they can show you all the different styles that Material App should use and how you should style an app to make it look like the Material application. So Flutter comes with the actual widget that makes your apps look like Android apps. There's also Cupertino app, which makes your app look like an iOS app. Now this Material app provides some base features. So first we have something called a navigator key that basically used to move between pages within your application. You have things like theme, where you get set what colors your application uses. And then there's even things like debug features. So I can showcase that for you. You see this little red icon called debug. We could do show debug check mode banner to false. We save it and rerun it. You'll see that debug banner is gone. And within the Material application, we have to define our home page. So this home page is very clearly named my home page, and it is a stateful widget. It's stateful because we're going to have a state of the counter that we're going to be incrementing here. And now within the stateful widget, we have a scaffold, which is a very key widget within a Flutter application. So scaffolding is just like scaffolding construction. It's a support structure for your UI. Now let's say if we remove the scaffolding and maybe just do a text like hello. If we save it, you'll see our app looks completely messed up. There's no background. There's nothing for our text to be sitting on it. The text is just on nothing. And that's indicated to you by this red and is underlined. You know you did something wrong here. So we'll bring the scaffold back, save it, and these other widgets we'll go through in the next lesson.